All right, kicking off another deep dive, and today we're going to the heart of Congolese Rhumba.
Oh, wow.
It's vibrant, always evolving.
Yeah.
It's a genre full of stories.
Absolutely. You know those artists whose music just echoes through generations? They shape cultures. They might not be household names everywhere, but their stories are deeply intertwined with a specific time and a place.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be diving into the story of one such legend, Franco Luambo Makiadi.
Okay.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, he's practically royalty, the king of Rhumba.
The king of Rhumba.
We're going to be taking a deep dive into a video excerpt from the Daateku channel about Franco's life and legacy. Get ready to time travel back to the 1940s Leopoldville, now Kinshasa.
Okay.
It was a musical melting pot, and we're going to follow Franco's journey.
Right.
From, a young boy picking up a borrowed guitar to becoming a musical icon whose songs touched on love, societal critiques, and even politics. So imagine 1940s Leopoldville. What does the music scene like back then?
So picture like a vibrant mix of sounds and styles. Leopoldville was attracting musicians from all over Africa, creating this just incredibly rich and diverse musical landscape. And all of this fusion of influences had a huge impact on Franco, who was just a young boy when he arrived.
It's fascinating how, such a vibrant scene can shape an artist.
Yeah.
And speaking of shaping, I came across this charming story about how Franco learned to play the guitar. No fancy music schools for him. He learned by watching and imitating other guitarists.
It speaks to his natural talent, his deep passion for music. You see, learning by observation, picking up those techniques and nuances from others. It's such a powerful tool, and it's not just limited to music, is it? Think about how much we learn in life just by watching and absorbing.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And that drive to learn and create led him to form his own band at the incredibly young age of 18.
That's right. He formed a band called OK Jazz, named after the bar where they played their first gigs.
A bar giving birth to a musical legacy, I love it.
Right.
But here's where it gets interesting. They call themselves OK Jazz, but they specialized in Rhumba, a genre drawing from Cuban and Latin American rhythms. So why the name?
Well, it just shows this fascinating fusion that was happening in Congolese music at the time. Rhumba was already a blend of influences, and OK Jazz, they took it further. They mixed it with local styles to create something entirely new. It reminds us that true innovation often comes from blending existing elements in unexpected ways.
It's like taking ingredients from different cuisines and creating a whole new dish.
Exactly. And a key figure in shaping that unique sound was Samaro Masia Lutumba, a composer and musician who became a major force within OK Jazz. They incorporated elements of cha-cha-cha, creating a musical language that was both familiar and groundbreaking.
Speaking of groundbreaking, all of this was happening against a backdrop of significant political change in the Congo. The assassination of the prime minister in the 1960s, the rise of Mobutu.
Yeah, it was a turbulent, transformative period for the Congo. But what's fascinating is that this period of upheaval coincided with the golden age for Congolese music. It's often during times of change and uncertainty that art flourishes. It offers a voice to the emotions and anxieties of a society.
It's like finding beauty amidst chaos. And Franco's music became a powerful voice during this time. He was even one of the few non-politicians allowed to live in Kinshasa during Mobutu's regime.
That speaks volumes about the respect and influence he already commanded. His music clearly transcended political boundaries, touching something deep within the Congolese people. And then there's Mobutu's authenticity policy, which aimed to promote indigenous Congolese culture.
So how did that policy impact musicians like Franco?
Well, think of it this way. Mobutu's policy, although complex and controversial, in some ways it aligned with what artists like Franco were already doing.
Okay.
Celebrating Congolese identity through their music, it created a context where their work was not only accepted but encouraged, further elevating their status.
So it wasn't just about the music itself, right? Franco's lyrics carried weight too.
Absolutely. He wasn't just an entertainer, he was a commentator on society, reflecting its complexities and contradictions through his lyrics. Dr. Manda Chebwa from the Ministry of Culture and Arts even called Franco a painter of society, someone who captured the essence of his time through music.
And it wasn't just broad societal themes, was it? Even his personal life found its way into his songs. His first wife, Pauline Baboyo, shared that he often responded to conflict, not through arguments, but by writing songs about it.
That's an incredible way to channel emotions and process experiences, you say. It highlights the power of art as a form of expression, a way to work through personal struggles and share those experiences with the world. And for Franco, it was also a way to engage in social commentary, to spark conversations, and to challenge the status quo.
And one recurring theme in his music was the role of women. His portrayal was often seen as critical, even controversial.
Yes, and it's led to much debate over the years. Some see it as misogyny, while others argue it reflects the complex gender dynamics of the time. It's crucial to remember that we're looking at his work through the lens of today's values. But it also raises important questions about how we engage with art from different eras. Do we dismiss it outright if it doesn't align with our current values? Or do we try to understand it within its historical context while acknowledging its potential flaws?
That's a challenging question. How do we appreciate the art while also recognizing the potentially harmful messages it might have conveyed?
It requires a nuanced approach. We can acknowledge the historical context, the social norms of the time, while still critically examining the work's impact and questioning its assumptions. It's not about condoning problematic aspects, but rather using them as a starting point for dialogue and understanding.
It's like saying this was made in a different time with different social norms, but let's not shy away from discussing the parts that might feel uncomfortable or even offensive today.
Exactly. By having those conversations, we can learn more about the past, about how far we've come, and perhaps even about the subtle ways those past influences still linger in our present.
It's almost like Franco's music is still prompting debate, still challenging us all these years later. And that's not even getting into the musicality itself, the innovation, the way he blended genres, creating something truly unique.
Right. Think about OK Jazz, a jazz band that wasn't playing jazz at all. They took Cuban rumba, added local Congolese rhythms, and created this hybrid sound that became synonymous with a whole era of music.
And it wasn't as if he was working in isolation either. He had rivals, competitors, other talented musicians pushing him to constantly innovate and stay at the top of his game for decades.
The incredibly competitive nature of the Congolese music scene back then.
Absolutely. Kinshasa in the 1960s and 70s.
What was it like?
A hotbed of musical talent.
So much talent.
There were so many talented bands and musicians.
All vying for attention.
Pushing each other.
Trying to stand out.
To innovate and create something truly special.
It must have been an exciting time to be a part of that scene.
It was this incredible melting pot of creativity.
All those influences coming together.
A constant push and pull between tradition and innovation.
Our sources mention Franco's rivals. And it's clear that those rivalries played a significant role in shaping his career.
Like Tabule Rochard.
Another legend.
And his band, African Jazz.
A fierce rivalry.
They were constantly trading hits.
Back and forth.
Pushing each other to new heights.
Like a friendly competition.
Those rivalries weren't just about ego or popularity.
No, it was about the music.
They were about pushing the boundaries of the music.
Experimenting with new sounds.
Incorporating different influences.
Constantly raising the bar for what Congolese rumba could be.
It's a testament to his talent and drive that he managed to stay relevant for so long.
Absolutely. He didn't just ride the wave of popularity. He constantly evolved, adapted, and stayed ahead of the curve. That kind of longevity, it speaks for itself. He wasn't afraid to experiment and push the boundaries of Congolese rumba into his music, creating a sound that was both rooted in tradition and forward-looking.
It's incredible how he managed to blend these seemingly disparate genres so seamlessly. It speaks to his deep understanding of music and his ability to connect with audiences on multiple levels.
Exactly. And that willingness to experiment, to push boundaries, is a hallmark of a true musical innovator. He wasn't content with simply replicating what others were doing. He was constantly seeking new ways to express himself and connect with his listeners.
And his later years took a particularly poignant turn. In 1987, he released a song called Beware of AIDS, and shortly after, he became seriously ill himself.
It's a heartbreaking chapter in his story, and it highlights the power of music to address social issues, to raise awareness, and to spark dialogue around difficult topics. Beware of AIDS wasn't just a song, it was a message, a warning, a call to action during a time when the disease was still shrouded in fear and misinformation.
It's a powerful reminder that artists can use their platform to shed light on important issues and make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. And in Franco's case, he used his music to do just that. He didn't shy away from difficult topics. He confronted them head on. using his art to educate, to challenge, and to inspire.
And then, just a couple of years later, Franco passed away. The outpouring of grief was immense. The nation mourned. Mobutu declared 5 days of national mourning, which is a pretty powerful statement, wouldn't you say?
It really does highlight the impact, Franco had on the Congolese people.
Yeah.
His music was more than just entertainment. It was like a soundtrack to their lives, a reflection of their joys, their struggles, their hopes, and their dreams. He had become woven into the very fabric of their culture.
It's incredible how music can have that kind of power.
Yeah.
It's like, a shared language that transcends words, and it connects people on a deeper level.
Exactly. And in Franco's case, he used that language to paint a vivid picture of Congolese society, didn't he? He wasn't afraid to tackle sensitive topics. To use his lyrics to comment on social issues, political events, and even personal relationships. Remember how Dr. Chebwa called him a painter of society?
That's right.
Yeah.
He wasn't just singing about love and heartbreak. He was addressing poverty, corruption, inequality, and the challenges of everyday life in the Congo. He wasn't afraid to hold a mirror up to society and challenge the status quo.
And he did it with wit, with satire, and sometimes even with, biting criticism.
Yeah.
But he also celebrated the beauty and resilience of the Congolese people, their culture, their traditions, and their spirit.
Yeah.
His music was a complex tapestry reflecting the full spectrum of human experience.
I'm starting to understand why he was so beloved, even by those in power.
Yeah.
It's one thing to sing catchy tunes. It's another to use your music to spark conversations, challenge assumptions, and potentially even influence change.
And remember, he was doing all of this against a backdrop of immense political upheaval and social transformation. The Congo was going through a period of intense change, and Franco's music captured the energy, the anxieties, and the aspirations of that moment.
He was living through it all, wasn't he?
He was.
The struggle for independence, the rise of Mobutu, the complexities of post-colonial life, it was all happening around him. And he channeled those experiences into his music.
And that's what makes his music so fascinating to explore.
Yeah.
It's a time capsule, a window into a specific era, a way to understand the hopes and fears of a generation.
Right.
But it also transcends its historical context. The themes he addressed, love, loss, betrayal, societal injustice, the search for identity.
Yeah.
These are universal human experiences that resonate with listeners across time and cultures.
That's the mark of truly great art, isn't it?
It is.
The ability to speak to something universal, something that transcends time and place.
Yeah.
And one of the recurring themes in Franco's music was the role of women. His portrayal was often seen as critical, even controversial.
Yes, and it's a complex issue. Some argue that his lyrics perpetuate negative stereotypes about women, while others defend them as reflections of the prevailing social attitudes of the time.
But even if we acknowledge the historical context, some of his lyrics can be pretty jarring to modern ears, can't they?
Absolutely, and it's important to have those conversations, to question those portrayals, and to understand how they might have contributed to harmful gender dynamics.
Right.
But it's also important to avoid simply dismissing his work outright.
So how do we navigate that tension? How do we appreciate the artistry and cultural significance of his music while also acknowledging the potentially problematic aspects?
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth engaging with.
Okay.
We can listen critically, analyze the lyrics, and consider their impact within the broader context of his work and the society in which it was created.
It's like saying we can appreciate the beauty of this painting while also recognizing that the artist might have held some views that we find reprehensible today.
Exactly. We can hold both those ideas in our minds at the same time. It's about nuanced perspective and engaging in thoughtful discussion rather than rushing to judgment.
And speaking of judgment, it's interesting how Franco's music often challenged traditional moral codes and societal norms.
Right.
He wasn't afraid to sing about taboo subjects like infidelity, prostitution, and the complexities of urban life.
That's right. He was pushing boundaries, provoking conversation, and sometimes even courting controversy.
Yeah.
But he was also reflecting the realities of life in the Congo, particularly in the bustling urban centers like Kinshasa. His music captured the vibrancy, the energy, and sometimes the darkness of city life.
And he was doing it all with this incredible musicality.
He was.
The way he blended genres, the infectious rhythms, the soaring vocals. It's impossible not to tap your feet when you hear his music.
He was a master of creating a groove.
Yeah.
A hypnotic blend of Congolese rumba, Cuban sun, and elements of jazz, soul, and funk.
Wow.
his band OK Jazz was a musical powerhouse, featuring some of the most talented musicians in the Congo. And Franco himself was a charismatic frontman, a true showman, who commanded the stage and captivated audiences.
I can only imagine the energy of those OK Jazz concerts.
Oh, yeah.
It must have been an incredible experience.
I bet it was electric. Imagine a packed dance hall, people moving to the music, singing along, lost in the rhythm.
Wow.
It was a communal experience, a celebration of life, a release from the everyday struggles, and a chance to connect with something larger than yourself.
It sounds like a true escape, a way to transcend the challenges of daily life and find joy and connection through music.
Exactly, and that's one of the enduring legacies of Franco's music. It's music that makes you want to move, to sing, to celebrate life.
Yeah.
But it's also music that makes you think, that challenges your assumptions, and that prompts you to engage with the complexities of the world around you.
It's a powerful combination, isn't it?
It is.
Entertainment and social commentary, joy and reflection, all woven together into this incredibly rich tapestry of sound.
It is, and it's what makes Franco Luambo Makiadi such a fascinating and enduring figure.
Yeah.
Right.
He wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural icon, a voice of his generation, and an artist who continues to inspire and provoke us all these years later.
And speaking of provocation, one of the most interesting aspects of Franco's career was his relationship with Mobutu Sese Seko, the authoritarian leader of Zaire, which is what the Congo was called at the time.
That's a fascinating dynamic.
Yeah.
On the one hand, Franco was clearly a beneficiary of Mobutu's authenticity policy, which promoted indigenous Congolese culture and helped elevate the status of musicians like him.
But on the other hand, some of his songs seem to criticize Mobutu's regime, didn't they?
Yes, and that's where the nuance comes in.
Okay.
Franco was a master of walking that tightrope between celebration and critique.
Right.
He could praise the government's efforts to promote Congolese culture while also subtly pointing out its flaws and hypocrisies. He used metaphors, allegory, and wordplay to convey his messages, leaving listeners to decipher his true intentions.
It sounds like a risky strategy, especially under an authoritarian regime. It was, but Franco was incredibly skilled at navigating those treacherous waters.
Yes.
He understood the power dynamics at play, and he knew how to use his music to push boundaries without crossing the line into outright dissent.
Right.
It was a delicate dance, but he managed to pull it off for decades.
It's a testament to his intelligence and his understanding of the political landscape.
Yeah.
He wasn't just a talented musician, he was a shrewd operator, someone who knew how to use his art to navigate the complexities of power.
Exactly, and that makes his story even more compelling.
Yeah.
He wasn't just creating music in a vacuum, he was operating within a complex and often dangerous political system.
Right.
His ability to thrive in that environment, to maintain his popularity and influence while also expressing his views, speaks volumes about his character and his artistry.
And let's talk about that artistry for a moment.
Okay.
What made Franco's music so unique? What set him apart from other Congolese musicians of the time?
Well, there are several factors at play. First, there's the sheer breadth of his musical influences. He wasn't just drawing from Congolese rumba, he was incorporating elements of Cuban sun jazz, soul funk, and even rock into his music.
So he was a true innovator, blending genres and creating something entirely new.
Absolutely. And he was constantly evolving, pushing boundaries, and experimenting with new sounds.
Yeah.
He wasn't content to simply replicate what others were doing. He was always striving to create something fresh and original.
And that originality extended to his lyrics as well, didn't it?
It did.
He wasn't afraid to tackle controversial topics or to express his views on social and political issues.
Right. He used his lyrics to tell stories, to paint portraits of society, and to engage in social commentary. He could be witty, satirical, and even bitingly critical.
Right.
But he also had a deep understanding of human nature, and he could convey empathy and compassion in his songs as well.
It sounds like he was a master storyteller.
Yeah.
Someone who could use music and words to capture the full range of human experience.
He was, and that's one of the reasons why his music continues to resonate with listeners today. It's not just about the catchy melodies or the infectious rhythms. It's about the stories he tells, the emotions he evokes, and the insights he offers into the human condition.
And let's not forget the importance of his band, OK Jazz.
Oh, yeah.
They were more than just backup musicians. They were a musical force in their own right, weren't they?
Absolutely. OK Jazz was a collective of incredibly talented musicians, many of whom went on to have successful solo careers.
Wow.
They were a tight-knit unit, and their musical chemistry was undeniable. They could play with precision, with energy, with passion, and with a deep understanding of Franco's musical vision.
So it was a true collaboration, a synergy between Franco's creative genius and the talent and skill of his bandmates.
Exactly, and that collaboration resulted in some of the most iconic and enduring music to come out of the Congo.
Yeah.
Their music was a fusion of tradition and innovation of local and global influences, and it helped to define a generation and shape the sound of Congolese music for decades to come.
It's a remarkable legacy, isn't it?
It is.
To have created a body of work that not only entertained millions, but also challenged societal norms, reflected the complexities of a nation in transition, and helped to shape the cultural landscape of an entire continent.
It truly is, and it's a testament to Franco's talent, his vision, his courage, and his enduring impact on the world of music.
And speaking of impact, let's talk about Franco's legacy.
Okay.
How did his music influence subsequent generations of Congolese musicians?
Well, Franco's influence is immeasurable.
Yeah.
He set a standard for excellence, for innovation, and for social commentary that continues to inspire musicians today.
So he wasn't just a great musician, he was a pioneer, a trailblazer, who opened up new possibilities for Congolese music.
Absolutely. He expanded the boundaries of Congolese Rhumba, incorporating elements of other genres and creating a sound that was both rooted in tradition and forward-looking. He also showed that music could be a powerful tool for social commentary, for challenging the status quo, and for giving voice to the hopes and struggles of a people.
And did he have any direct protégés or students who carried on his musical legacy?
Yes, several musicians came up through the ranks of OK Jazz and went on to have successful solo careers.
Wow.
Some of them stayed true to the classic Congolese rumba sound, while others experimented with newer genres and styles. But all of them carried with them the influence of Franco's musical vision and his commitment to using music to tell stories and engage with the world around them.
It was like a musical family tree with Franco as the patriarch and his influence branching out through generations of musicians.
Exactly. And that tree continues to grow and evolve with new branches emerging and new fruits being born, all carrying within them the genetic code of Franco's musical genius and his enduring legacy.
And that legacy extends beyond the Congo, doesn't it?
It does.
His music has found fans all over the world.
That's right. His music has transcended national boundaries and become part of a global musical conversation.
Yeah.
His songs have been sampled by hip-hop artists, covered by rock bands, and featured in films and documentaries.
Wow.
His influence can be heard in the music of artists from all over the world, from Latin America to Europe to Asia.
It's incredible to think that a musician from a small village in the Congo could have such a far-reaching impact on the world of music.
It is, but it speaks to the power of music to transcend borders, to connect people across cultures, and to leave an indelible mark on the world.
Yeah.
Franco's music is a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and the ability of art to touch our hearts and minds long after the artist is gone.
And speaking of the artist being gone, Franco's later years were marked by both personal and professional challenges, weren't they?
Yes, he faced health issues, financial difficulties, and political pressures. But he continued to make music, to tour, and to connect with his fans until the very end.
Wow.
His final album, Attention na Sida, was a powerful statement about the AIDS epidemic that was ravaging Africa at the time.
It's a testament to his courage and his commitment to using his music to address important social issues, even in the face of his own mortality.
Absolutely. He wasn't afraid to confront difficult topics or to use his platform to raise awareness and advocate for change.
Right.
He understood that music could be more than just entertainment. It could be a powerful tool for social good.
And his death in 1989 was a huge loss for the Congo and for the world of music.
His passing was mourned by millions, and his legacy continues to inspire and influence musicians and music lovers around the globe.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into Franco's life and legacy, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this conversation?
I hope they're inspired to explore Franco's music, to discover the richness and depth of his artistry, and to appreciate the power of music to transcend borders, to connect people across cultures, and to leave a lasting impact on the world.
And I hope they're also inspired to dig deeper into the stories behind the music, to understand the historical and cultural context in which it was created, and to appreciate the complexities and nuances of Franco's life and legacy.
That's a great point. It's not enough to simply listen to the music. We need to engage with it critically, to understand its meaning and its significance within the broader context of history, culture, and society.
And speaking of context, one of the things that struck me about Franco's story was the way he navigated the political landscape of Zaire.
Yeah.
He managed to maintain his popularity and influence while also subtly criticizing the Mobutu regime. How did he manage to walk that tightrope for so long?
Well, it was a delicate balancing act.
Okay.
On the one hand, he benefited from Mobutu's authenticity policy, which promoted indigenous Congolese culture and elevated the status of musicians like him. But on the other hand, he wasn't afraid to use his music to subtly challenge the status quo, to poke fun at the government, and to address social issues that the regime might have preferred to sweep under the rug.
Exactly. He was a master of double entendre, of using metaphor and allegory to convey his messages without being overtly critical.
So he was playing a dangerous game, but he played it brilliantly.
He did,
Yeah.
and it's a testament to his intelligence, his wit, and his understanding of the power dynamics at play.
Yeah.
He knew how to push boundaries without crossing the line into outright dissent. It's a fascinating example of how art can be both a tool of the establishment and a voice for dissent, sometimes simultaneously.
It is, and it raises important questions about the role of artists in society, about the relationship between art and power, and about the ways in which art can be used to both reinforce and subvert dominant narratives.
And in Franco's case, he managed to do both.
He did.
He celebrated Congolese culture and identity, contributing to a sense of national pride, while also subtly critiquing the excesses and hypocrisies of the Mobutu regime.
Right. He was a complex figure operating within a complex and often contradictory political system.
And that complexity is reflected in his music, isn't it?
It is.
There's joy and sorrow, celebration and critique, tradition and innovation, all woven together into this rich tapestry of sound.
Absolutely, and that's what makes his music so enduring and so rewarding to explore.
Yeah.
It's music that makes you think, that makes you feel, and that makes you want to dance.
It's a potent combination.
It is.
And it's a reminder that great art can be both entertaining and thought-provoking, both accessible and challenging.
Exactly, and in Franco's case, he managed to achieve that balance in a way that few artists ever have.
Right.
His music continues to speak to us today across time and cultures, reminding us of the power of art to connect us, to inspire us, and to challenge us to think differently about the world around us.
And speaking of challenging us to think differently, one of the things that I find most fascinating about Franco's music is the way he addressed gender roles and relationships.
Yes, that's a complex and often controversial aspect of his work.
On the one hand, he celebrated women, their beauty, their strength, and their resilience. But on the other hand, he also portrayed them as manipulative, deceitful, and even dangerous.
Right, and that duality, that tension between celebration and critique is what makes his work so interesting and so challenging.
Yeah.
He wasn't offering simple answers or easy solutions.
Right.
He was exploring the complexities of human relationships, the dynamics of power and desire, and the ways in which societal norms and expectations shape our interactions with one another.
And he wasn't afraid to challenge those norms, was he?
He was.
He sang about infidelity, about prostitution,
Yeah.
about women who defied traditional gender roles. He wasn't trying to present a sanitized or idealized view of relationships.
No.
He was reflecting the realities of life in the Congo, both the good and the bad.
Exactly, and that honesty, that willingness to confront difficult topics and explore the darker side of human nature is what gives his music its depth and its power.
It's not always comfortable listening, but it's always thought-provoking.
It is, and it forces us to confront our own assumptions about gender, about relationships, and about the ways in which we interact with one another.
And in a way, that discomfort, that challenge to our preconceived notions, is a sign of great art.
I think so.
It's a sign that the artist is pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
asking difficult questions, and forcing us to re-examine our own beliefs and values.
Absolutely, and in Franco's case, he did all of that with incredible skill, with humor, with pathos, and with a deep understanding of the human heart.
And he did it all while creating some of the most infectious and danceable music to ever come out of Africa.
That's right. He was a master of rhythm, of melody, and of creating a groove that made it impossible to sit still.
Yeah.
His music is a celebration of life, of love, and of the enduring human spirit.
So as we wrap up this second part of our deep dive into Franco's life and legacy, I hope our listener is starting to appreciate the depth and complexity of his artistry.
I hope so too. He was more than just a musician. He was a storyteller, a social commentator, a cultural icon, and a true original. His music continues to speak to us today across time and cultures, reminding us of the power of art to connect us, to inspire us, and to challenge us to think differently about the world around us.
It's amazing how we've gone from those early days in Leopoldville to discussing Franco's global impact.
It is quite a journey.
Do you think his music would have reached such a wide audience without the political and social backdrop of his time? I mean, would it have resonated in the same way?
That's a great question. It's like asking if a flower's beauty depends on the soil it grows in, Franco's music was undeniably brilliant, but its context, I think, really amplified its impact. The Congo's struggle for independence, Mobutu's policies, the social changes, they all became part of the story his music told.
It's almost like those external forces added like layers of meaning to his music.
Exactly. Think about it. You're drawn in by the infectious rhythms, the intricate guitar work, the soulful vocals, right?
Yeah.
But then as you listen closer, you start to hear the stories that are woven into the lyrics, the social commentary, the glimpses of a society in flux. That's what makes it so captivating.
It's like those songs aren't just tunes, they're historical documents, snapshots of a particular time and place.
And that's one of the reasons why Franco's music continues to fascinate scholars and historians today.
Oh, wow.
They can analyze his lyrics to gain insights into the social and political climate of the Congo during his lifetime. It's like having a musical archive of a nation's soul.
I never thought about it that way. So Franco wasn't just entertaining people, he was documenting their lives, their struggles, their triumphs.
Precisely. And he was doing it with such artistry, such skill. Remember we talked about how he blended genres? Well, he did the same thing with language.
Oh, wow.
He could weave together street slang, proverbs, political slogans, and poetic imagery, creating a linguistic tapestry that was as rich and complex as his music.
Wow, so he was a wordsmith as well as a musician?
He was a true Renaissance man, a polymath. He understood the power of language, and he used it to create a world that was both familiar and fantastical, grounded in reality, yet soaring with imagination.
And to think he did it all without any formal training.
Yeah.
We talked about how he learned guitar by observation, but did he have any formal education in writing or literature?
No, entirely self-taught.
Wow.
Which makes his mastery of language even more impressive, don't you think? It speaks to his natural talent, his insatiable curiosity, and his relentless drive to learn and grow.
It's inspiring, really. He just absorbed everything around him and turned it into art.
That's the mark of a true artist, isn't it? The ability to find inspiration in the everyday, to transform the mundane into something extraordinary. And Franco did that not just with his lyrics, but with his music as well. He could take a simple melody, a familiar rhythm, and infuse it with his own unique style, his own personal magic.
It's like he had this Midas touch. Everything he touched turned into gold.
Exactly. And that's why his music continues to resonate with listeners today, decades after his death. There's a timeless quality to his work, a universality that transcends language, culture, and even time itself.
And that brings us to the question of legacy. What do you think is Franco's most enduring contribution to the world of music?
That's a tough one. It's like asking a parent to choose their favorite child. But I think his greatest legacy is the fusion he created.
Okay.
The way he blended traditional Congolese music with influences from Cuba, Latin America, and even the West, forging a sound that was both uniquely Congolese and undeniably global.
It's like he took the best of all worlds and created something entirely new.
Exactly. He was a pioneer, a visionary who showed that music could be both local and global, both rooted in tradition and open to innovation. And that legacy continues to inspire musicians all over the world today.
So even though he's gone, his music is still alive, still evolving, still influencing new generations of artists.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of art, isn't it? It lives on long after the artist is gone, continuing to inspire, to challenge, and to connect us across time and space. And Franco's music is a testament to that enduring power.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored Franco's early influences, his musical innovations, his social commentary, his complex relationship with the Mobutu regime, his enduring legacy. Is there anything else you think our listeners should know about Franco Luambo Makiadi, the king of Rhumba?
I think we've painted a pretty comprehensive portrait, but perhaps the best way to truly understand Franco is to listen to his music, to let the rhythms wash over you, to let the lyrics speak to your soul.
That's great advice. So to our listener, if you haven't already, go out and discover the magic of Franco's music. You won't regret it. And if you're already a fan, hopefully this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for the depth and complexity of his artistry.
And remember, music is a journey.
Yeah.
Let Franco be your guide and see where the rhythms take you.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Franco Luambo Makiadi, the king of Rhumba. Thanks for joining us.
Azonga, Gaya wa moyena ndako